Since tonight's theme is fish out of water, we actually have two storytellers who are not from Portland. They have come here from other places, including our next storyteller, who is here from Seattle. His name is Andrew Monko, and he was the owner of the fabulous indie music magazine, Resonance Magazine, and now considers himself an aspiring entertainment specialist. Please welcome to the stage Andrew Monko from Seattle.
Afraid you make Seattle sound so exotic. I should be wearing some robe or something. Yes, I'm the emissary from Seattle. I was raised from birth as a Jehovah's Witness, and what this meant was that it was my responsibility, not mine alone, but to spread the word of God in the world. Now, that means not part of the world, which is key, because if I was part of the world, that means that I would ultimately perish in Armageddon with all the other sinners and would not get to live in paradise on earth forever. When you're a little older and more mature, it might be easier to shoulder that kind of spiritual responsibility. Well, for instance, like Prince. I mean, he converted later in life, and he seems to be doing quite well, you know. But as a kid, a small kid, it's really a lot to absorb. So here's how it started. When I was born, my mom was a Jehovah's Witness, and my dad was not. And a debate ensued on how I would be raised. And my dad finally conceded. Look, you want to raise him biblically? Go ahead, but leave me out of it. So the whole job of parenting was essentially my mom's job. And, well, since I turned out to, as they would find out soon after, quite a handful and hyperactive and all this was a really good deal for my dad. As legend has it, he made this bitter prediction. Andy will never be a Bible bum. Well, my mom, not one to shrink from a challenge, certainly tried to make me one. So here's how it went. Well, here's how the indoctrination went. 3 times a week I would go to church, where I was taught to shun anything nationalistic or pagan in origin, which is a lot of stuff. And when I was at home, my mind was often filled with fantastical imagery from my mom's overactive imagination. For example, once when I was 5, I'm in my room playing, minding my own business. My mom comes in, and she gently asks me to gather up my favorite toy and my favorite book. Well, I dutifully do this. I grab a Hardy Boy title and my Captain Kirk action figure, and I trudge out to the living room because I think I'm grounded, right? So I hand them to my mom. Mom, am I in trouble? No, honey. I just want you to be ready. Are we going on vacation? Andy, I want you to have something to read and to play with when we're taken to the concentration camps. See, my mom's reasoning was this. Because Jehovah's Witnesses were one of the persecuted groups during World War II, that surely in the end times, before Armageddon, it's gonna get worse before it gets better, right? Fortunately, my dad got tired of stepping around the suitcases in the foyer, and a few days later made my mom unpack them, right? So for the first few years of my life, church and home was all I knew. The thought of going to secular public school was pretty frightening. I mean, I had a lot of imagery in my head. I mean, it's like, school is gonna be like, that's where sinners and paganism lives, which is actually kind of true. But anyway, so when I finally did start school, Oh, well, no, let me backtrack. On our way to kindergarten, actually, it was this idyllic moment. My mom and I are in the car, and you'd think it'd be all exciting, my first day of school. Instead, I am throwing a hellfire tantrum because I'm terrified to go to school because of the aforementioned reasons, the sinners and stuff. And my mom lets me skip my first full year of school. It was awesome! All I had to do was throw one tantrum. So anyway, when I did start school, it was scary, but for different reasons. It turns out that not only was I a religious outsider, but I was also a nerd. So, just to get through the day was struggle enough, what with hiding from the bullies and everything, rather than make it worse on myself and, paint an even bigger target on myself and by flying my religious freak flag. All right, but since day one, all I wanted to do was fit in. So I came up with my own custom strategy. All the things that I was supposed to be doing as a Jehovah's Witness, like preaching to my peers, about things I believed when the opportunities arose, or eschewing anything even vaguely pagan, I would do very, very subtly. Every morning we'd stand up, and from a distance it sure looks like Andy is saluting the flag, but actually I had my hand right above my shirt, so I really wasn't. Every new science teacher that I had, I was charged with giving them a book about creationism, which I would do really late after school when it was dark and no one was around, and I'd sneak in, I'd put the book on the teacher's desk, and I'd run out of there. Mission accomplished, right? During the holidays, that was a minefield in itself, but for instance, in art class, while everyone else was making construction paper, rosy red Santa Clauses, Andy was making a snowman, right? So it was nice and safe. Well, this strategy worked for years. In fact, I was never outed, right? But it came with a lot of guilt. Guilt that culminated one day when I was in my backyard and I was just wondering to myself, is this working? Am I getting away with it? Or does God see me? Well, that's a rhetorical question in panic attack number 2. And I fell to the ground. It was very dramatic. Oh my God, I'm going to die. The earth is going to swallow me up with all the other non-believers, including my dad, right? Well, the anxiety subsided when I got to high school, and I got interested in punk and skateboarding and girls and just finding out who I was, because before that, that was really unclear. But the guilt was just always there, percolating under the surface. And it would just jack-o'-lantern up at unpredictable times. For example, when I was in college, this is years later, I had an apartment that was right on the edge of a boulevard. It was at street level. And whenever a heavy truck would roll by, it would sort of shudder the building a little and rattle the windows. Like during the day, that's completely fine. But at night, when you're asleep, when I'm asleep, countless times I would wake up and I would think it was Armageddon. And I was like, I'm sorry about the snowman! Okay, so now it's present day, and I love that bell. Now it's present day, and I think I am finally beyond all of that irrational fear. Although you may still catch me mouthing the words to Christmas carols, I can say that my dad was right. I'm not a Bible bum. I think at long last I've assimilated, and I have become one of you, the damned.
Big round of applause for Andrew Monko.